wormholes, particle physics, extra dimensions. Are the wonders of so-called reality really what they appear to be? Or do we exist in an elaborate hologram? Is our universe the result of random activity or the result of intelligent design? If a creator was involved, can we discover him through our perception of divine order? This is Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck.
Does the modern official disclosure movement actually have occultic origins? And is it actually far more ancient than we might think? We are here to answer that question. We're talking about me and Derek's new book, The Day the Earth Stands Still. And by Derek, I mean Derek P. Gilbert, who is our special guest into the multiverse today, as was the case last week, and here you are again this week. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Isn't it weird? We're wearing the same clothes.
I know, I noticed it.
I know.
Oh, it's weird.
Oh, break the fourth wall.
And when Derek says that, he means we're wearing the same clothes as last week. Not that he and I are wearing the same clothes right now, so you don't have to adjust your television. Actually, it's not even... That's like something from the 90s. People don't adjust their TV anymore. They adjust their computers or phones or something.
Yeah, they're smart TVs. How would you adjust a smart TV?
I'm 33 and I'm like an old man.
When it comes to technology, this is sad but true. I'm barely hanging on by the,
Well, actually,
I'm going to hit the wall, my technological wall here, one of these days soon, I'm sure.
Well, you already know more about it than I do because you're having to show me. Derek Gilbert has to show me how to use the Mail app on a Mac because I hate it. I don't understand it. It's confusing. I just know Gmail.
Well, we didn't start texting until we were in our mid-20s.
Oh, we hated it. Yeah,
we hated it. I was like, texting is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. And my mom had bought another phone because I was pregnant with our oldest. And she's like, you need to start texting me. Like, if you're having contractions or whatever. It's like, I'm not going to text you. She's like, well, you're not going to want to call. And sure enough.
And now we exclusively text. We don't ever call anymore.
No, I don't want to talk on the phone.
I heard a joke by a...
We text from offices. And
we
there's
do.
only like 3 feet of wall between us. And, we text...
Yep. Yeah, I heard a joke from a comedian. The phone is a seldom used app on my phone. That's exactly what it is.
Right. I never. You know what? One of the kids got a hold of my phone. This is a true story, and moved the phone app off of my screen. And so when I actually had to call the post office because the post office lost some of our mail. I went looking. I was like, where is it? I don't remember the last time I used it.
Yeah, I had to use it the other day, and I actually had to look for it because I don't know where it is. Crazy stuff. Well, this is a fun introduction. We also have in studio with us Christina Peck, my lovely, beautiful wife. How are you doing?
I need no introduction. You already know I'm here.
That's true.
I opened up my face, and I began to talk.
As we all do. That is human biology.
Those of you who don't know biology.
Yeah.
Well, if there's anybody hanging on and sticking with us this long, it might be somebody's first time viewing the show. Where can they find us? How do they get a hold of us online? What are all the things?
Well, those of you who are new to this and decided to hold on, thank you. We are here on YouTube at youtube.com/Into the Multiverse. You can also find us on Roku underneath the Skywatch TV channel. And there's also an app, as we were discussing, apps for your smartphones. If you go to your Google or Apple store, you can just type in Skywatch TV, and there is an app where you will have access to all of the shows. Skywatch Women, One-on-One, the main program, Sci Friday, our show, and 5 and 10, I believe, is on there now, too.
Yeah, they're all there.
Everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's
definitely.
where you can find us.
And if you need room on your phone to store the app, just get rid of the phone app because you won't ever use it. If you do subscribe to us on YouTube, and please do, make sure to click the little bell and tell YouTube that you want all the notifications, because the default setting is that they'll only tell you sometimes, which means they'll never tell you when we upload content, and we do so every week, sometimes more than every week. So you'll want to be on top of that. So, okay, the actual conversation at hand, believe it or not, was how fast technology is going. And
Well, speaking of technology, and this actually,
Yeah.
we can use this as a segue.
Sure.
I can do this because I'm a professional. Don't try this at home. Into the discussion about the occult origins or the supernatural or spiritual origins of the ancient aliens theory.
Yes.
One of the groups, and we mention them in the book, is the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence. There are a couple of groups that are actively trying to make contact with whatever is out there. And we point out it is kind of an odd coincidence that both of these groups, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, headed up by Seth Shostak, and the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which is the group headed up by Dr. Stephen Greer.
Right.
Both are named for, or both have as their acronym an Egyptian word that means man of Set. Seti means man of Set. That was the name of the father of Ramses the Great, by the way. Well, who was Set? Set was the Egyptian god of chaos.
That's right.
Right.
Who the occultist Kenneth Grant, who was the successor devotee personal secretary to Aleister Crowley, believed was the spiritual entity that was in contact with Crowley and with Grant, also known as Typhon to the Greeks, which is why Grant transformed Crowley's thelemic magic into a new system that he called the Typhonian order. The belief that this god of chaos was somehow supernaturally, telepathically communicating with sensitives on Earth. And he believed, in fact, that the horror fiction author H.P. Lovecraft was one of those, that Lovecraft and Crowley were basically channeling the same spiritual source that Grant identified as Set or Typhon, the god of chaos, that was someday going to return. And Josh did a great job in the book of detailing why this is prophetic and why it's significant, because the god of chaos plays a major role in the Bible, although we don't often hear it talked about or taught
Almost
on.
never.
Right.
Yeah, usually when we hear of Leviathan, and we can track that back, more too. But usually when we hear Leviathan, we're taught it's a dinosaur. I mean,
Yes.
I thought that most of my Christian life.
Right.
Same with Behemoth, and it's not.
No, and this is a common thread in the cosmology, the religions of the ancient Near East. The Sumerians, the Babylonians, who were just Amorites, Eastern Amorites, the Western Amorites, their cousins, the Canaanites also had a version of this. But the theme, the constant thread, the Egyptians, the Greeks, was that a warrior god had to defeat this god of chaos, represented by the sea, or a serpent in the sea.
Yeah.
And we see that in the Bible. If you look carefully, you'll see it in a number of places. Isaiah talks about God crushing the heads of Leviathan.
Psalm
Right.
74.
Psalm 74. Rahab, another name applied to this twisting serpent. The Canaanites called it Lotan. And Lotan was a servant of the god of the sea, Yam, that had to be defeated by the storm god, Baal. To the Greeks, the storm god Zeus, who was just Baal by a different name,
Right.
had to defeat Typhon, the chaos dragon. In the Egyptian texts, the chaos serpent, Apep or Apophis, had to be defeated every night, interestingly enough, by Set, who was riding on the front of the solar boat piloted by Ra. But every night had to defeat this chaos serpent that wanted to restore Earth to the primordial chaos that existed before Ra created everything. In Babylon, it was Marduk who had to defeat the chaos dragon Tiamat, and prior to Marduk, it was Enlil. So it's a common thread.
Yeah.
Because it's the same story, just twisted through different cultures, and of course, twisted by the lies of these principalities and powers, these fallen entities that want to confuse mankind, confuse us so that we're following any truth except for the one truth,
Right.
which is Jesus Christ, the truth, the way, the truth, and the life. All of that to get back to this technology thing.
Yeah.
CSETI, the group headed up by Dr. Stephen Greer, actually offers an app for your smartphone or tablet to make contact with these entities.
Yeah, they're
Oh
big
my
into that
gosh.
CE5 stuff, which is basically, I mean, they're praying to these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The ET Contact Tool, a self-contained course on making contact with ET beings, authored by Dr. Stephen Greer, who, when you read his story, first encountered these entities by meditating, by opening his mind, opening his spirit up to these entities, and
Yeah.
he first made contact. They took him on board the ship, and he felt love.
Isn't it strange you can't even talk to another person on Earth like that? You know, if these are our space brothers and if they're just biological entities, I can't talk to somebody from Japan, a stranger in Japan, in that manner. I can't meditate and I can't get into your head from across the hall by doing that. What would make people think that they could do if these are just biological entities? Because a lot of these people will say, well, they'll downplay the spiritual part when it's met with resistance and skepticism.
Right.
You know, when the subjectiveness of their claims are called, and it's like, well, you know, they're just highly spiritually evolved, but they're biological entities still. They're still from another planet. That was the case until recently. Now it's starting to shift into the more extra-dimensional realm.
Right.
But to me, it's like, isn't this kind of a clue? And then you brought up a good point too. We talked about this on Coast to Coast, and then we've done a couple interviews now where you brought this up, that why does it have to be through telepathy? They don't know how to work a radio?
Yeah.
Right.
We've got the technology that millions of years more advanced, and yet we don't know how to work a radio or a webcam. You know, we can't Skype in.
Yeah.
And just,
nothing objective. It's all subjective
it's all
stuff.
subjective, right? Because as you pointed out, that these stories are often contradictory.
Yes.
We're from the Pleiades. No, we're from Sirius. No, we're from here. We're from there. We're part of the Galactic Brotherhood. We're from the Ashtar Command.
Yep.
They're hearing different messages. And in fact, one of the members of the inner circle of the Mutual UFO Network, which has some serious MUFON investigators really upset, is a channeler who claims that she's hearing messages from a 36,000-year-old warrior from the lost continent of Lemuria, which calls back to the theosophist teachings of Helena Blavatsky. Blavatsky and the lost continent of Lemuria and Atlantis and their conflict, and this modern day, I will call her a cult leader, is now one of the members of this advisory board for the Mutual UFO Network, which calls itself the foremost organization for the scientific investigation of unidentified flying object phenomena. Really?
They always got to put science, you know, try to match science with it.
Right. Well, Aleister Crowley and Helena Blavatsky believed that they were bringing scientific rigor to the study of the supernatural and the paranormal, you know, to spiritual pursuits as
it's
well.
Like, where's the repeatable tests, and you know, where's the scientific
exactly
method?
But this gets to something else you brought up into the book. You covered the WikiLeaks releases, the email contact from the late astronaut Dr. Edgar Mitchell and John Podesta, who was Hillary Clinton's campaign chair. Mitchell is one of the co-founders of the Institute for Noetic Sciences. And noetic means, you know, knowing, and how do we know? It's the same root word as the noosphere, which is this idea that human interaction, the social networks that we create, is somehow itself a sort of living thing that will someday become sentient and we'll all become one. And, you know, it's very Eastern in its mysticism.
Yeah.
We're all going to lose our individuality and become one with the cosmos.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Just what I want.
Very anti-biblical or anti-Christian.
Yeah.
So anyway, like this ET contact tool, which you can download for your iOS or Android device, Mitchell's goal with the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which, by the way, his co-founder is one of the guys who's a primary financier of the National Prayer Breakfast.
Yep.
Think about that.
That's odd.
Yeah, a guy named Temple, Paul N. Temple. It was the same goal as the Institute for Noetic Sciences, which our friend Dr. Future, Dr. Michael Bennett likes to say is just trying to come up with a scientific way to get possessed.
Yeah, basically.
That's what it is.
Wow.
So, and like I said, we can draw a strong link. I've dropped these names all through here already. Crowley, Lovecraft, Blavatsky. If you want to talk about this, we can show this direct link from Blavatsky to the modern ancient aliens theory.
Yes, let's absolutely talk about that. We do have to cut to break so we can let you know how you can get a hold of this book and some more information. When we come back, we're gonna delve just headfirst into that topic. So stay with us right after this.
3 very mysterious shiny lights have police and residents puzzled.
This pilot who flew Barack Obama says UFOs are real and he's seen one firsthand.
The triangular-shaped flashing object appears to be floating above the capital city.
So this large disc, massive, it was following you.
It was pacing us. Here's this giant red ball just above the clouds.
Unbelievable.
Oh, it was.
4 different species, at least, had been visiting this planet for thousands of years.
For the first time in history, the disturbing truth behind the push for official disclosure of extraterrestrial intelligence and UFOs has been uncovered. For years, religious and secular researchers have tried to determine how the world would react to a genuine extraterrestrial reality. But what if their conclusions are wrong? Humankind has defined them as devilish creatures. Yet something even more diabolical is occurring. What if there's a difference between ancient demonic phenomena and the question of extraterrestrial life? It was hinted at in the WikiLeaks.
People really want to know what the government knows.
I have said I want to open the files as much as we can.
A reality that lurks in the shadows that will soon come to light. A truth so shocking, it threatens the destiny of every soul on planet Earth. You must ask yourself, why now suddenly is seeking to answer the question of UFOs life-threatening?
This is another investigator who is getting very close to information on official disclosure that's now been found dead.
I've talked to a lot of pilots here, and they've all admitted that they've seen UFOs, but they kind of keep quiet about it.
The government discounts every single report that ever seems to come out, every UFO report.
I'm about the only person willing to get in front of the camera and talk about the UFOs that were flying overhead.
Promises of earth-shattering news are being quietly whispered by scientists and government insiders. Is something about to happen that was prophesied in the Holy Bible? This November, internationally acclaimed best-selling authors Josh Peck and Derek P. Gilbert peel back the lid on an astonishing cover-up and expose on a most insidious deception. In The Day the Earth Stands Still, unmasking the old gods behind ETs, UFOs, and the official disclosure movement. Coming November 2017.
The holidays are rapidly approaching, and now's your chance to save big on the largest Skywatch TV giveaway of the year. We're proud to announce the Day the Earth Stands Still Ultimate Collection. When you purchase The Day the Earth Stands Still from Skywatch TV, you'll also receive Josh Peck's most significant work in the new compilation book, Unraveling the Multiverse. Also back in print through Defender Publishing for the first time ever, Dr. Michael Heiser's breakthrough books, The Facade and The Portent. But we're just getting started. You'll also receive the brand new, top secret 5-volume DVD collection, Project Stargate. This unprecedented series of never-before-released confidential interviews features 12 of the world's leading authorities on UFOs, so-called aliens, gods, and the coming day of contact. You'll be amazed as we go behind the scenes to ask experts what they really believe is coming. Watch as men with security clearances like Dr. Chuck Missler share for the first time what they know. Then take notes as Dr. Michael Heiser, the late Chris Putnam, Russ Dizdar, Joe Jordan, L.A. Marzulli, Daryl Sims, Gary Stearman, and others weigh in on what will soon cause the world to stand still in awe. And yet, we're still not finished. You'll also receive Dr. Thomas Horn's presentation, The Secret Vatican and Alien Antichrist Connection on DVD, the digitally re-released legendary 20-hour audio series, Official Disclosure, the DVD presentation, Quantum Physics in Prophecy, and 2 free brand new gift books to add to your library or to give away as gifts this holiday season. Sold separately, this colossal special offer holds a retail value of over $300, but it's yours now for a very limited time at only $39.99 plus shipping and handling. So don't delay. This avalanche of holiday gifts is perfect for the serious researcher in your life, but is only available while supplies last. So take advantage of this, the largest Skywatch TV giveaway of 2017, while you can when you purchase the Day the Earth Stands Still Ultimate Collection, now at the Skywatch TV store. Order online or call 1-844-750-4985.
Welcome back to Into the Multiverse. All right, so occultism, Blavatsky, how does all this tie into the actual ancient astronaut theory that is so prevalent in our culture today.
Yeah, this was a little surprising, but when we began the research for the book, I'd read a couple of books over the last few years that I thought were really interesting because the two authors are coming at this from different worldviews, and I don't think they're aware of each other's research, or maybe they disagree with one. I don't know. One is a researcher into the occult, Peter Levenda, who wrote a book called The Dark Lord, which was about this chaos god Set and how the occult workings of Aleister Crowley, which he thought were coming from the god Horus, were actually coming from Horus's enemy, his arch enemy Set, because according to Egyptian mythology, Set was the one who killed Osiris and cut him up into parts and so forth. The other researcher is a skeptic. He's at best agnostic. He's not a believer, named Jason Colavito, who wrote a book showing how the work of the horror fiction author H.P. Lovecraft, who was mostly active in the 20s and 30s, one of the literary giants of the 20th century in America, really, but wasn't recognized as such until about 40 years after his death, how his work really inspired the modern ancient aliens theory. So when you take those two ideas and put them together, you get a really weird picture. When you look at the history of Lovecraft's personal life and what inspired him to write, he claimed he was an atheist. Okay, we'll take him at his word. He was an atheist. He believed he was a man of science. But he was happy to draw on the supernatural beliefs of people like Blavatsky and her successors for inspiration for his works. And so he came up with these fantastic stories like The Call of Cthulhu and At the Mountains of Madness, which is set in Antarctica. If you've seen the movie Alien versus Predator, where which is set in Antarctica, with the ancient pyramid there in Antarctica, and Wayland Bishop discovers it, and they lead a team there, and they find out that there are things still living down there. That was essentially that was a theme that ran through a lot of Lovecraft's work. That these megalithic structures were built in the dim past by these gods from other stars, and who are now either gone or they're sleeping, but just waiting for the stars to realign in the right configuration for them to wake up and come back and take us over, because they pay no more attention to us than we do ants on the sidewalk.
Right.
It's horrifying stuff. It's disturbing stuff.
Yeah.
And Lovecraft himself was kind of a disturbed kid. He suffered from night terrors as a child, and that may have something to do with what the kind of fiction that he eventually wrote. He drew on the work of Blavatsky and the Theosophists for his fiction. Kenneth Grant, who was the personal secretary of Crowley, believed that Lovecraft and Grant were drawing from the same spiritual source. Again, that's documented by Peter Levenda. We cite some of that in the book. Some of the parallels are just beyond coincidental.
And there's no evidence that they've ever met or any...
No.
Yeah.
I mean, Lovecraft might have known of Crowley, but there's no evidence in his work that he knew specifically what Crowley was doing or had access to his holy books or collaborated or anything like that. And yet some of the stuff that they wrote was like, wow. I mean, were they dictating from the same source? Well, again, Kenneth Grant, who was Crowley's successor, believed that they were.
And it's so similar to all the Leviathan stuff and all the stuff that...
Right.
I mean, was that even well known at that time? Because a lot of that, isn't it fairly recent just through like archaeology and discovering a lot of...
Well, some of what the other ancient religions believed, but a lot of that stuff had been dug up in the 19th century. That was a time of great discovery in the ancient Near East. So a lot of these Babylonian texts were coming up and coming out of the ground back then. So that may have inspired some of what Lovecraft wrote as well. He basically was looking for anything that was weird and unexplained. Okay, pyramids, great, we can put that in there.
Yeah, there was never anything that like said the word Cthulhu or anything like that.
No, but in 1907, on Halloween of 1907, Crowley was transcribing what he believed he was hearing from these spiritual sources, these entities from elsewhere. And one of the words that he wrote down was Cthulhu.
Oh, okay.
Kenneth Grant thought later that perhaps he just misheard the word and that he really, and it should have been Cthulhu.
Right.
Now, Cthulhu, of course, was the best known of, The Call of Cthulhu was Lovecraft's best known short story. In fact, the universe, the world that he created, is sort of known now as the Cthulhu mythos. Many other authors have written in that fictional world and contributed their own monsters to this world. Dagon, in fact, was another famous story that that Lovecraft
the famous
wrote.
fish god.
Yes, in Lovecraft's story, it was a fish god, which I think is why so many people today believe that they got
Did he get a hold of the two Babylons?
Probably, and he might have used that as inspiration too.
Yeah.
We don't know. But the point is that Lovecraft's work was not well received here in the United States. Back in the 20s and 30s, his type of pulp horror fiction was not very popular. It became more popular in the 40s, especially when the Department of Defense started shipping copies of Lovecraft's work out. Lovecraft was dead by that point, couldn't argue over the rights.
Right.
For the war effort, give the GIs something to read to take their minds off of, being shelled or whatever, shot
This will
at.
calm you down. Some horror stories.
Exactly. Here, sleep well.
Some primeval fear.
And because of that introduction into Europe, his Lovecraft's reputation began to grow, especially among the French. For some reason, the French loved it, thought it was awesome. And a pair of magazine publishers who published a science fiction magazine called Planete, or Planet, wrote a book in which they drew on these themes that Lovecraft had used for his fiction, and published a book in 1960 called Dawn of the Magicians, or something to that effect. It was translated in English in '63, sold very well, and like anything that does well, whether it's books, music, or movies, if you sell a bunch, somebody's going to copy it. Well, a hotel manager in Switzerland thought this was a really cool idea and copied it to the point where the authors of the French book, Powles and Bergier were their names, threatened a lawsuit. This new book sold tens of millions of copies worldwide. Is the most popular book of archaeology ever. It was Eric von Daniken, Chariots of the Gods, which of course now is sort of like the holy book for the whole ancient aliens.
That's what the show was
theory.
based on
That's
originally.
exactly right. And of course, Zechariah Sitchin a few years later came out with his book about the Sumerians were actually worshiping astronauts instead of spiritual entities, gods, which is what we believe, fallen angels who masqueraded as gods.
Right.
But that's where it came from. So you've got Blavatsky, Theosophy, lost continents, ancient races, gods who came to Earth, ascended masters of ascended wisdom, sending messages telepathically to teach mankind how to evolve. All of that brought into modern day, into the UFO phenomenon. It's just the occult with a science fiction veneer.
Yeah, it finds a perfect home there. And like we make the point in the book that maybe it's not that they mistook aliens as gods in the past. Maybe it's that we're mistaking gods for aliens today.
Exactly right. And we see that type of mistake taking place. Like, for example, when you see a discussion of Ezekiel's wheel, his vision from chapter 1 of the book of Ezekiel, and the History Channel, or any other discussion of the modern UFO phenomenon. Well, clearly this was a UFO. Well, no. Clearly, this was a depiction of a royal throne from ancient Mesopotamia. If you had gone back to 7th century, 8th century BC, when did Ezekiel live? 6th century BC, everybody would have known what he was describing. The wheels within wheels, and the Ophanim, and the cherubim, and the seraphim. That was how you depicted a royal throne, especially the throne of a god. It's just we don't know what they were seeing because we've lost that cultural context.
Exactly.
So, we're mistaking what Ezekiel was seeing, not the other way around.
And they've even, there's even pictures and stuff that they use. So it's not like we're just reading that into the text. There's actual Babylonian, what's the word, iconography that Dr. Heiser uses all the time.
Exactly. They've brought that icon of the wheel within wheel within everything, like Derek was saying, the movie Knowing.
Well, that's what it is. The UFO phenomenon, the abduction phenomenon, it is all about trying to sell us a new religion that answers the big questions. Where did we come from? Why are we here? And what happens when we die?
Very true. Yeah, very true. Well, we are all out of time. We got to do this more often. We got to get you on the show more often. I think I've been on Sci Friday probably like 10 times as much as I've had you on this show. So we'll have to change that. And
Josh doesn't like to share.
I'm very, very selfish when it comes to my multiverse. Multiverse is big enough for only one of us. But thank you for coming back on the show. This has been a blast. And thank all of you for joining us into the multiverse yet again. Until next time, take care and God bless.